The Late Morning Program with Namras Podcast.
Hare Krishna, everyone. You are listening to the number one Hare Krishna podcast in the world, the Late Morning Program with Namras. This is your host, Namras, and I'm here with one of my favorite devotees in the whole world, Amara Prabhu Dasan. Prabhu, thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you for inviting me. I'm just surprised that finally we made it, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to get you on for a while now. I know I made that flyer like a few months ago saying, you know, who all the guests who are going to come on, and you were on there, and devotees were very excited. They were like, "Oh, when is that happening?" Anyway, for whatever reasons, it didn't happen exactly as we planned, but now you're here, and I'm very excited to speak to you.
Yeah, excited to do the same with me, but you have to, tolerate my English, I'm a German.
For those of you who don't know, Amara Prabhu is from Germany, and he actually performed my wedding about 8 years ago. Yes, 8 years ago now. We're married, and he's come to America to do a number of rituals for our ISKCON temples, the groundbreaking of New Jersey, etc. And he's just a very, very expert and also very humble devotee, devotional to his, and a great devotee of Lord Nrsimhadev. I'd like to talk about that later as well. But first of all, Prabhu, let's talk a little bit about how did you come into contact with Krishna consciousness and devotees?
I think you asked this question, everybody, right? This is interesting.
That's how I started out.
That is an interesting thing because everyone has his own boat to go, and you see, I'm grown up in the east of East Germany, and when I was born, and in the end of the 60s, there were a very strong regime of communism, and there were not much people believing in Christianity or going to churches. So eventually I grew up without baptizing and being a Christian, and I was not being part of the Christian education, and we had our own education, the communist education. And so actually for this point I was quite free to choose what I had felt for in relation with God. So then when I was in most probably in the time of most difficult time in myself, there's like this saying that people who come in contact with spiritual life, they're either in just curious, interested, or they want to know about everything, or they're suffering. So I think in my case it was more like the suffering and curious thing, to do my research on how God and what's all about my life and why I'm here and like that. Actually, when I was very, very young, when I was 5, there was happening a very strange incident, which was really like an eye-opener for myself. I was standing, and I still remember that was really like so much having influence on myself. So I was in the kitchen. And I was in kitchen. No, I was in the bathroom. Sorry, in the bathroom washing my teeth. Right, standing in front of a mirror, and I looked in the mirror, and then suddenly a voice came in my head and saying, "Okay, you're looking like this now, but you have looked different before in your previous time." And that I was like shocked, and I was just running to my mother, like, "Oh!" But later on, that always came back. So that I have been on this earth not the first time, and this is a several time coming back, and this time I really have to fix my life, so that was actually the start, you could say, for my search. We really, because when you grown up in the communist time, you had no choice. You just had to follow what they was giving as a as a way to live. And me as a free spirit didn't go along with that system very well, and therefore I was always opposing that. And I really I really wanted to go my own way, and that helped me a lot, that kind of incident as a very young kid.
And then when did you meet? So how did you come in contact with Vaishnavism?
Yeah, interesting. We because I was very rebellious, you could say, in the time, in the Eastern time, and I really had to had a big struggle in my life. Actually, when I was just starting with 13, I became like a kind of punk rock, living outside, and
13.
with 13, and I really had to do my way to this system. And so then finally, when everything is shattered on the ground, and you feel like where you have to go, and there's only one way you can approach inside to do a prayer. I think that was the time when I was having almost facing death, and I had like a kind of near-death experience, and I was praying very strongly to help me, and that really changed everything. That deep prayer changed a lot. And so and then actually in the hardcore, when I was in the hardcore scene in West Berlin, because I was escaping from East and finally to the west side of Berlin, in the hardcore scene, there was this new movement coming with the straight edge and vegetarianism, and also the Krishna philosophy entered. And there was this very famous band called Chromex, and they had like on tour in 1987, and I was going to the show, and there were only 50 people on that concert, and
Wow.
we met like the singer and the bass player, and we just talked to them, and they was straight, like, oh, because I was saying, I'm coming actually from the East, and then they were like, wow, cool, you're coming from the East. And and then this John Joseph was saying, oh, they're like putting all the Hare Krishnas in jails and very bad. And that really started to get interested, because as the punk movement was really under pressure in the communist time, so the people were going to the jail just looking different. And so that was hitting me. It's like why the Hare Krishnas has to go to jail just because of their belief, huh? And so then I got Bhagavad Gita, and I got the 7th canto, the first, because that was like the cover of the Chromex record. And so then, so that was the start. And early 90s, I went to India and did my own exploration of that country. It's like, that really blew my mind. I was staying there like for 4 months. My English was really bad in that time. I mean, worse than now. You can imagine going to India with that kind of nothing to speak, So then that was really a really hardcore experience in India.
Wait. So how did you go to India? You just like went to India just like that without contacting anyone, or?
That devotees was telling me, if you really want to experience India, you have to come to us. You have to come to different holy places. And I got a book called The Magic Travel to India. And with that book, that was like a esoteric guide for people who want to explore India. And so I visited Sai Baba, and I visited different other ashrams. But the devotees were on my picture. And in Puri, the first time I went to that little shrine of Bhakti Thakur, I think, and it was really like just a little hut in that time. And with them I started. Then I really felt, because before I was very not trusting the movement to being authentic, because I really wanted something authentic and really from the spiritual point of view, really like traditional. And that was really something which hit me, seeing it in India. Seeing the devotees in India, and seeing Jagannath Puri, and I have been first to South India actually, and and there were not many devotees, so to say, but like the normal Indians, with tilak every day morning, and also there in Kanchipuram, I was coming there to the temple of Varadaraj, and there was a big sign, non-Hindus not allowed, and I was standing there and thinking about how I can go there inside, and then this one Wala who was on the entrance, he was selling like tilak and punals, Gayatri, Upavitas, and this standard stuff for pujas. And then he asked, you just put tilak, namam, you put, and then you can enter. And I didn't know what to say. Then he said, he showed me, he made it for me, he put it. And then I went in. I had like one of the first darshans were actually Varadaraj. And
Wow.
I've seen like the whole, procession, and they all thought, they looked this white elephant there, and I looked really strange. I had not like fully white dhoti stuff, and like collared ones, and looking like a hippie, but having the big namam. It was really cool. And so seeing it in India, like this is authentic. That has really some value here. And came back from India, and I immediately joined the temple, and I gave up, because before I was staying in the squat, and after Berlin Wall fell down, it was the big thing here in Germany, and the devotees had great success going to the east, distributing books all over, and so I invited the devotees to come to our squat and do kirtan and prasadam, but then I said, I have to make a change. I cannot be like this half-baked potato, I either stay and rot with the punks, or I will do a change in my life. So I really decided, and that was actually the good time, because I was still young. I was like only 20, 22, something like in that time.
Yeah.
So I could make that change. I could stay in the temple for some time, and yeah.
How long did you live in the temple for?
That was Berlin time was having the temple up to, I think, 94. I think there were some problems, and then they had to give up the temple. So but up to 94 I was staying in the temple. I was staying then in Heidelberg also. In Heidelberg there was their main center of they called it the Center of Vedic Studies, and it was just of course Hare Krishna program, but Center for Vedic Studies. And so then later I moved to the farm also, and that gave like the whole change.
Was that like a zonal acharya time? 90.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Right.
It was still there. That actually, when I after seeing the Chromex and going on their tour and coming back to Berlin, of course I wanted to meet the devotees, and going to the temple in that time, 87, 88, that was like you either join or you out. You're not part of it. Yeah. And so I came there, and I was still like having camouflage trousers and boots and shaved up, and sometimes I had tiger collars on my head. It was like really weird, and they didn't like me, of course, and I also could not survive in that time in the temple, most probably because they were very strict, and I had still that feeling, I can do something in this outside world, and but the zonal acharya thing went up to Harikesh left, actually. Yeah. But it was more open than in the early 90s, because then other gurus were allowed to initiate. But in the 80s, there were no zonal other guru allowed to come initiate anybody, and those people who were initiated by other gurus, they had to leave and live somewhere else in other temples where the guru were living, or having the rule.
Strange times.
Yeah.
So and then when did you kind of get involved in like rituals and things like that? How did that interest start?
Actually, it started when I moved in the temple. I had already interest in learning like a procedure of doing a puja, when I was living even in the squat, I had my little room where I started to build like an altar there, with some pictures and some incense. And then I wanted to learn how to do the offerings. But in the temple, really, that started because I saw pujaris living on a strict schedule, and somehow that was giving me some interest to see that they were, handled really purely in a way that could really, I don't know, this was this kind of atmosphere of pure environment with the pujaris, and that I really liked. And so in that time also in Germany, they had this German farm, like a pujari training camp. Actually every devotee even from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia had to come to the farm and get their standard training for doing archana, and also with the Astarata. In that time, Astarata Prabhu, who was in that time still was like a guru on the farm, living, doing the Radha Madan Mohan Seva. He was taking care about these things, and I went to the farm and I saw how they're learning these things. So then that was getting deeper. Finally, Astarata was kicked out from the temple, and actually he came to Berlin, and in that time our temple got split, and I had a little flat, and he was staying in my place, and he showed me how to do Shaligram Puja. I went there, just next room. I was like doing his Shaligram Puja in the next room, and every morning I was sitting there, and I saw also his disciples coming and bringing garlands and offerings, and that was really like the initial start for myself, because seeing like the eagerness others doing the worship, and that I got fire with that. And also Astarata is a very, how you say, a very paka, you could say paka, how he arranged everything, how nicely the deities is dressed, and the Shaligram is painted, and that was very attracting in that time for me. And
who's that devotee? I've never heard of him before.
Astarata Prabhu, yeah, he's a Prabhupada disciple, and he was in charge for the farm of Radha Madan Mohan worship, and he was mainly staying there, and he had like few devotees as his shishyas, and so only in the mid of the 90s there were some political issues with him and Harikesh, and they were like and he left the farm from one day to the next, and finally he left also ISKCON. But in that time he was a guru. Yeah, he was coming to Berlin, giving classes and initiating people.
Oh wow, never heard of it before. I remember seeing on something of your social media one devotee, older devotee, kind of with a beard, and he had left his body, and he was also into pujas and rituals.
Right, Padmanabha.
Yeah. Yes. Tell us about him. Who is he?
He was a great pujari, you could say, and a worshipper of Sitaram. And he was on the farm for a very long time. I don't know, maybe 20 years, doing the pujas there along with Astarata. And but he was more like a Narasimha pujari, and he took care for Narasimha. And he lived on the farm with his wife. His wife is a Prabhupada disciple, Madana Lasa, and she was both of them raised their kid on the farm. Also Hanuman, usually they named their son Hanuman, and he was really far out. He was like a very special person. He could know the personality of one, even he doesn't look at the chart. He was also astrologer, and he lived with that astrology, and he helped many devotees in doing the readings and helping them and their psychology problems. And he was a great mentor, you could say.
And so when you learned all these rituals, like you were interested in them, then you went to India to further your study, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, in that time I was getting my first Narasimha deity the early 90s, and I really wanted to understand how to worship him properly, how to do like prana pratishtha, and so I got really interested in that. And then I had to decide if I want to stay in Vrindavan and nothing learning about this particular worship, or do I have to go somewhere and seeing the worship, how it's done in a way for Narasimhas. And that was the decision was made. I was just staying 6 weeks in Vrindavan, and I, did a nice bhajan and Sanatan Goswami's bhajan kutir, and chanted, 64 rounds with that goal. I want to go to South and meet the teacher. And when that 6 weeks was over and my japa was over, I decided, okay, I'm going now to South. First, I went to Ahobilam, and in that time, Ahobilam, early 90s, was really like a jungle, and it was not much developed. And then, of course, I went to other places. Like, again, I went to Kanchipuram. And then I realized, actually, Kanchipuram and Ahobilam, they're interconnected also, because there is in the Kanchi Mahatmya a story, like how Narasimha had come from Ahobilam to chase some demons. And, those demons were hiding in different mountains, like Sholingapuram, and then went to Kanchi in some cave. And Narasimha always followed him. That is described in the Kanchi Mahatmya. And so those temples have also Yoga Narasimha or special Narasimha worship. So I was traveling then finally to different places to meet people. And in that time, you see, there was still cassettes going, and these cassettes, you had a little player with you, and then you retune and listening with the cassettes. And it's not was not so easy to do recordings also with some people of like Pandits. When they wanted to do a recording, you had to either memorize or write it down. And so that study with those people was very difficult also, because we were one of the first, so to say, white people who wanted to learn something from them, above or separate to what they normally would expect if a Westerner would come. And they were very hesitant also to teach, and it took me many years to finally meet somebody who really would accept me as I am, like a ex-punk coming from East Germany. And so that took me a long time to go to India and learn with a proper person, no?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about kind of like the, being from a Western background and a Western body. You felt kind of discriminated against when you were trying to learn these deeper parts of ritual and puja and things, because there's it's a lot about your birth, right? What caste you are, or what gotra and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It's still in that particular in that group of people, because they're, you could say, the head of the society of the Vedic knowledge, because they're keeping it protected. There's secret knowledge. There's things which has to be hidden. There has to be protected, and they're very they stay back. See who you are, and it is like the story of the Zen master and his disciple, who's wanted to come to living in a monastery, but the master says you stay outside of the wall, and you have to live in front of the door, and the rain comes, and for weeks he's not leaving you in. He puts you a little bowl of rice every day, and similar. I mean, it's not that they were unfriendly, but it is not very easy in that time to get attached to a person nowadays, because ISKCON is very famous all over India, and they have a high recognition of those people as really sincere and honest, and so then the Brahmins are more open and really welcoming you. But in that time, it was very difficult to find somebody. They will always say, yes, come back tomorrow. Oh, next week. Oh, I'm on tour. I'm come back.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't tell you to your face like, "Hey, I can't teach you because you're, German." Like
The
they
German.
won't say they won't say that because of
No,
their
yeah, politely. Yeah, some people were more rough if you insisted. If you're insisting, like I really want to learn from you, strangle them, and then they're like, I cannot. I go close, don't come close, or something. But some people, they have culture, and of course they don't want to hurt you. They don't want you to feel bad, but at the same time they want to protect their pure environment in a way that if you enter, I can also understand, if you enter and steal the knowledge which you might misuse and do some nonsense, then they're responsible for that. So yeah, and that time they were more I would say closed. You could not really yeah, we had like a difficult time to meet good people. But in the same time, when you go to the temples and see the rituals, it is already elevating, like in it said, and even in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it doesn't matter if you watch Abhishekam or you perform it by yourself, the same benefit is there. So when you go to the temple, eventually you see the rituals, the benefit is the same as the priest.
Yeah.
You understand? So that is like, we got all the same benefits seeing all these rituals. If they would performing it on their self, doing it for their self, but they did it for the public. So then you understand, oh, now he's doing Agyam, now he's doing this Achmaniam, now he's putting Alankara, and yeah, like that.
Right.
The benefit is still with us. So then I got really like a blessing in disguise. So
tell us a little bit about the importance you feel about rituals, because sometimes I hear devotees speak like rituals and samskaras are not important in the context of like pure bhakti and the highest forms and the high stages of bhakti. Those things are kind of more meant for grahastas and for children in particular and things like that. So what is the role of rituals in the life of a devotee, and why is it important, do you feel? Like, for example, I find it important just because, I had my children and we did their hair cutting and the first grains and things, and we all got together and we had prasadam and kirtan and things. It was a very uplifting experience, but I don't necessarily agree that it's not important, but some devotees do say that because in the context, as I said, of pure bhakti and that higher stage. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, you're right. It is like a ritual. It could be like a crutches. It's like a tool for uplifting the soul. And I would say more than 90% of us are having that problem with not feeling the soul always present. And rituals are there, especially samskaras, are for polishing the soul. That it's like a raw diamond found in the riverbed, and you have to bring out the light from it by polishing it with a special tool, with a special machine. So ritual can be used as a tool also, and it's of course it's not like absolute needed. It's for your devotion to God. You have to learn pujas or something, yeah. But in the same time, it is a fantastic experience to be connected to God in a way like you communicate with Him. Rituals are like a communication with the devas, even the mudras and the mantras in certain sections, and the swaras, the melodies, and it will enhance and uplift the soul. It is different to like playing cricket. You feel unity, okay, that made you fit, and that's okay. But this will carry on for many, many days. It can even enhance you for weeks and months. Some people say for the whole life. There are some samskaras which only done once in life, and rituals are only done once in life, and they will carry the soul to the next destination. And of course, as I say, it's not needed. If you do bhajana, only sit under a tree in Vrindavan and that's it, and you're satisfied with flat rice and water, good, fine. But most people are not. Most people are living in this world and they want to experience life also. They don't want to miss it out in the end of life and saying, "Oh, I had so many desires, I could not fulfill them, and now I'm craving for them," and that will bound the soul to the next destination, and that will be not very good in So therefore, rituals are there for purification also of the soul, to fix the soul. You see, I've seen many people coming to the movement, and they're in the beginning are fired up, and then they're blah, 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 and everything looks good, but then they're struggling, and they don't know where to go with their struggle, because and ritual can be a tool. It's not saying that it's all has to be fully, but it can be a tool to access or to overcome that difficult time.
Really? Can you give an example of that? I'm interested in that. What do you mean
I
by
mean,
that? You said if someone is uninspired or someone's not, they come to the movement, they're very enthusiastic, but then that enthusiasm goes down. How does rituals play a part in maybe getting them out of that?
Yeah, you can say if somebody gets a shaligram in their marriage, but before they were always struggling, but the shaligram will regulate them to do their material and spiritual needs. So that is already example. There are many other examples, like when like Samskaras also can bring families together, and that creates the next generation for our kids. It's something really important. You can give something for the future generations, because those kids who, when they're grown up, when they meet Christians, they will say, the Christians will say, I got baptism and I got my, I don't know what Christianity has, but there's definitely some kind of baptism in there, which creates their identity to be a Christian. So what the Hare Krishnas will say, we have every day Sunday feast, and okay, but then you can also say, I had this samskar, I had haircutting, grain, I had my first school, my first sweet, and the first sunlight, and there will be like, wow.
Right.
So it's that's identity crisis will be not so much with the next generation, and they will identify being proud of their being Sanatan Dharma, being a Hare Krishna, or being in connection with the Vedic knowledge, and that makes them strong in society.
Some devotees also say that, okay, this is all good, but this is Indian culture, and for Krishna consciousness to spread all over the world, we have to kind of let go of certain things, whether it's the way we look, the way we dress, the rituals we might do, for other people of other cultures to be able to take on the movement practices such as chanting and reading and so on and so forth. So what would you say to someone who says that these things are not important? These are Indian cultural things.
I would say that is his belief, and you can still see, like the Krishna movement had come from India. Nobody was interested in that time in India about Krishna and Radha. Now you go to Vrindavan, or not Vrindavan, you go to Delhi, you go to any place, Surat, or you go Maharashtra, everybody will call you Radhe Radhe, Hare Krishna, da 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 da, because Krishna consciousness went from India, where nobody was interested, into the West. That became famous in the West, and then the Indians all pick it up again. So I wouldn't say that matters for the sense that if somebody wants to preach it in a way which is more adjusting to the Western culture, why not? Have their Krishna West. We will have our Krishna East and Krishna North, Krishna South. But the main thing is, Krishna, never forget him, always remember him. And if you do it in the traditional way, that is brilliant. You can connect everything with it. You can connect music, you can connect dance, you can connect meditation, yoga, all in the traditional way, or you do it in a more modern way. Okay, good.
Have you felt more? Have you felt more enlivened, being more connected with the traditional way?
Yes, of course. I mean, in my sense, when I'm in India, I feel really at home. I just like it's like my flow. Okay, that's my personal thing. But I see others also, if they connect with India, then they're like ding, they're like on their track. It is not for everybody. Again, it's like some people feel India is horrible because it's dirty and in my first trip in India, I was staying in one of the most cheapest and most dirtiest, so to say, hotel in Pahaganj. When I was flying back after 4 months in India, and I was really having a lot of, like, I don't know, typhoid, and I was really sick. I was in that room. There was nothing. The window was full of garbage outside, and the room was full of mosquitoes, and the room was just horrible. But there was a written sentence on the wall, and that sentence really made my trip to India, because that was everything. It was saying that when you see only the dust in India, you will only see the dust, but you have to look behind, under the dust. There's gold. You have to find that gold under the dust. And that really hit myself. It's like, that's it, India, actually. That is, that's ancient culture, which is still breathing. It's alive. And I'm not interested in Bollywood, and I'm not interested in like how modern India is developing. And I'm more in the way I want to feel that ancient India. It's maybe Ketu oriented, but
hey, that's a good segue into astrology. So for those of you who don't know, our listeners, Amara Prabhu is also an astrologer, and he has studied astrology to an extent. So I wanted to kind of ask him about what he thought about what's going on in the world right now with COVID and all the different social unrest and things that's going on. What's your perspective on that from your personal perspective, but also an astrological one?
You see, I'm not an expert in astrology. First of all, I'm interested in astrology in the sense of doing remedies and using it for rituals, and especially there is this Devalaya Jyotish, which is connected to the deity worship, which is very interesting subject, and so that is a little different. I do from time to time helping people getting a good astrologer, and I myself study astrology. That's true. But yeah, so I think nobody had seen coming this in the way that it would happen, such a incident. Even, I mean, nobody in India who I know who was a good astrologer or some mystic magic man. I know one person. His name is Lakshminarayan. He lives in Sri Rangam, and he could really, he's good. I mean, he could see something, and he was telling me just before COVID started, I was in India, and he was saying that will be very difficult time coming. But nobody knew that will be a pandemic, there will be a lockdown, there will be, many people dying and all that. So, so first of all, I wouldn't say that many people knew about it. So therefore, astrology is still a mystery, and it gives a lot of, I would say, black holes there. Even a good astrologer sometimes maybe cannot predict his own death, or, death of his relatives. Right. So therefore, yeah, one has to be very careful dealing with astrology in a way of predicting anything. But in the same time, astrology can be a good tool for helping to see your own personality in a way which you have never thought about it, maybe, which gives a side of your personality to see really, oh, okay, I never thought about that I'm egoistic, or that I'm like very, now that I need some help from maybe some other person to overcome that problem. So astrology can tell you this. And regarding the COVID thing, definitely it will go on for some time, and people have predicted now they're predicting it up to the end of 2024. So because it is connected to the Saturn and Jupiter, and the connection with Ketu in the time of when all the thing happened. And we try to see Jupiter and Saturn. Normally this is like Jupiter is the guru. He is Akash. He is the total sky. And Saturn it's like it's destiny. It's like it's gross, you could say, in a way, huh? But so when they hit each other, it's like Shudra and the Brahmin, who really not can go nicely together. And they call it Yama Yoga. There's a kind of Yama Yoga with Ketu together, aspecting and all that. Anyhow, so that showed a big problem, and people seeing afterwards saying, okay, that you have to look when it happened in the past. So we were calculating and thought it only happened in the same house with the same planets, almost the same, only in the 13th century, when the plague was there. Then in the 8th century again, and see from the historical point, it's a very rare occasion. And but seeing it from when you see this perspective with Mars and Ketu, it's the time of the Second World War. So it has definitely some changes of society, that is for sure. But I'm not predicting anything in connection for that.
Some devotees or some people say that this is going to change life for good. Like we're all waiting for something to happen for everything to go back to normal again. But I feel like I don't think things are going to be normal again. There's never going to be a normal. There's just going to be the new normal. And it's not like a group of a cavalry is going to arrive and save us all. Like it's all now. Exactly. Everything's normal again. So yeah, it's
Right.
interesting. It's interesting in our lifetime. We've all been living with. I mean, me personally, I have like very comfortable life, very without any. I mean, the biggest thing was like September 11th here in America, in 2001. And after that, life really changed. But now we have another thing that came. Life is really changing after this.
Right.
Yeah,
it's all over. I mean, I just did some traveling to Poland, Czechoslovakia, and going downtown to Austria, and seeing those 3 different countries already. You see how the government's dealing there with the situation. But as I say, it definitely will do a change. It's a change in the system, a change in personal mindset, because and it will be, we pray it will be always for the good, because that is our intention as devotees. We do that prayer that Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May all the living beings on this Loka, which is Bhuloka, feel happiness or become Shanti, become But yeah.
What when you talked about remedies, because you were saying how you use astrology for deity worship, but also and pujas, rituals, but also for remedies. Is there any remedy to help out someone who may be going through some real heavy mental opposite of peace, like real kind of imbalance, or not imbalance, but maybe some real disturbance? Is there any remedy for what's going on right now? Or is it kind of just like a really large astrological time that everyone has to just go through?
Yeah, I mean, there is, like when there was war breaking out between India and Pakistan in the 1999, this Kargil conflict, people were doing homas and rituals in that time. I was staying in India and learning with some pandits, and I saw how they do this. They're called Praishchitta. And in that Praishchitta area, you find like different sections for country, for state, or for community, villages, or personality. For your own personality, you can do. And of course, you can always pray. A ritual is a prayer in a way, in a more formulated form, with some gesture, which is connected to devotion. And definitely you can do. And it's not that one has to take that burden and just let it go. No, rituals are there for upliftment to society. So definitely, and there are what's called Shata Abhishekam, which they have done in Sri Rangam temple after the COVID lockdown last year. They have done 1,000 kalashas Abhishek for the Moti, and in other temples also in Kanchipuram or in Tirupati, big temples, to counteract those problems. And of course, some of my priests from who I've learned in India, they are performing every day those rituals for people.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the connection? Because I see that you have a lot of influence from South India and more particularly Sri Vaishnavism. What's the connection, or how do you even harmonize that you joined Krishna consciousness, Hare Krishna, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but your influence is very much South Indian and Sri Vaishnavism? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, because I had always this conflict, coming to, first of all, being a Gaudiya Vaishnava initiate, and then going to a Sri Sampradaya to learn. And finally, I still remember that incident when there was one teacher. He was telling very straightly to me, he's like, if you want to be, if you want to be a, if you want to learn the way how the Pancharatra is learning, then you have to follow the whole system. If you want to learn like a Gaudiya, you have to follow the Gaudiya tradition. We have to understand both ways. So from that time on, I decided for myself I really wanted to learn Pancharatra. So doesn't mean I have any grudge with the Gaudiya tradition, but I feel more connected while I'm doing those rituals in the way the Sri Vaishnavas perform. And I got also Pancharatra Diksha, which is a kind of ritual initiates of a priest who gets like the sacraments to being eligible to learn Pranapatishtha, how to do Pranapatishtha and how to perform it on the moti and on festivals and so. Of course, not like a fully expert. I could only come for a few months and then go back to Germany. But yeah.
Can you tell us normally about Pancharatra for those who don't know? What is that?
Pancharatra is like the basic Agama text for Vaishnavas, which all Sanatana Goswami and Gopal Bhatta had taken from, and they have picked up those scriptures to formulate and make their own prabhati, make their own way of conduct in rituals, which is later on considered to be the Hari Bhakti Vilas and the Satkriya Saradipika. So those two main books are famous in Gaudiya Vaishnavism in connection with Samskaras and deity worship. Deity worship is one section. We always have to understand that Samskaras for a personality is different to a ritual in the temple, because there are agamas which are only for temple worship, only for the deity. You do the seva to the deity and you do all the rituals to the deity. You don't do it on yourself. So for yourself, they are different. It's a different section that's called samskaras. So they have collected from the Pancharatra tradition, which is very, very ancient, and all Vaishnava tradition has taken their sources from those, like the Madhvas, the Vallabhas, and except maybe not the Smartas, but because it's more a Vaishnava concept. And so it got enhanced with the Sri Vaishnava tradition because Ramanuja was very focusing on those texts to see there are no caste system in that. I mean, one cannot say no, but there is very less. The concept is very, very, very low, so that that everyone is eligible after getting Diksha to do ritual and to do deity worship. Right. So that is the very key mark in the scriptures. And so therefore Pancharatra is actually the source of all the other Vaishnava pradatis, or way of conduct.
There's a Prabhupada disciple, I believe it's Gorkeshava Prabhu, who
Hmm.
actually,
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada told him to, I don't know if you can verify this story, but if Prabhupada told him to go learn from the South Indian Brahmins, and they told him that you have to be initiated into it. And he told Prabhupada, they're asking me that I need to be initiated. And Prabhupada said, that's fine. Is that
Yeah.
true? Is that how the story went?
Yeah, but I mean, yes, that's his story, and actually, he's a brilliant personality. You should also invite him for
I have. We probably will do it, but he was a little
Cool.
not so sure in the beginning. But I saw
No,
him
no,
yesterday on the. I saw him yesterday on the podcast we had. He was commenting on the Vaishnavi Diksha Guru episode that I did, and
Okay, yeah.
they're getting
He
very
likes to
fired
fight.
up.
Yeah.
he was. I spoke to him on the phone, and it was nice talking to him. So I'd love to have him on and talk
Yeah.
about the history and things like that.
He's very learned. I mean, almost undefeatable in most of the subjects, and yeah, he's a good friend of mine and well-wisher also of myself. And so it's like, yeah, it's true. In the 90s, I'm not sure which year. You know, please forgive if I say a wrong year. Maybe 78 or. No, not 78, not possible. So like 75 or something, the Jagannath deities were installed in Hyderabad, and Prabhupada went there, and those group of Brahmins came from Bangalore. And so Prabhupada was very pleased with them, seeing how they performed, because he wanted to have like local Brahmins to do the installation, that the temple get accepted by the communities of the common people in Hyderabad, an area, like the Andhra people. So then they invited those Vadakalai Brahmins from Bangalore.
He's watching.
Oh, okay, cool.
Haribol.
And so yeah, and that was just happening. That Prabhupada was very pleased, and he wanted that they learn those suktas and the different rituals from them. And he told to his disciples, I'm not sure which of the disciples, but they didn't go. And Gorkeshava heard about it, and he decided, okay, I will go there and learn with them. So that Sampat Kumar, I think was his name, he was staying in Bangalore and learning with him. And then he got, yes, okay, good, thank you.
So he learned with that the Brahmins that came for that installation,
right? And he just not learned with them, but he also got the Pancharatra Diksha, and he got the full. I think he's the first ever, you could say, a white personality who got these kind of Pancharatra Diksha in the worship of doing. He was authorized by the Brahmin community to doing a deity, installation. So that is really something outstanding, and that was really quite early. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, if it's in the 70s, that's like very early. I mean, Vrindavan wasn't even discovered hardly by people. It was like a village.
Right.
And then for someone to come and to go to these South Indian Brahmins and be approved, like, okay, this person who's in a Western body is going to be able to do all these rituals that we all do. That's huge.
Right.
That's huge. Wow.
Especially, like you were saying in the beginning, like with all the caste concept, it was very difficult for us to learn. And finally, that you are. When you have a teacher who is really like understands your personality and says, okay, you have to become a full-fledged Pancharatric personality, you will accept even my gotra, means your caste, his caste from the guru, and so you will use that in the ritual, so that is connected to the parampara. So that is.
What would you say to someone who wants to learn, like a young person who wants to learn these Pancharatric practices, but who also is kind of staying within the Gaudiya Vaishnav framework, but they is it necessary to step outside of it and to learn from other places, or is it I mean, it depends on what your attraction is, but what would you say to someone who wants to learn? Essentially, what would you tell them? Find a guru or read it from the books, or what would they do?
And nowadays it's so much easier. Everything is on YouTube. You have like all the classes on Pancharatra or Hari Bhakti Vilas. Even there are many devotees who are publishing Hari Bhakti Vilas by giving discourses on it. So it's a good start. You start to listen to those classes and you enhance your personality with companies of people who be interested in pujas, and from them you can step by step learn. And finally, when it comes to the point of learning Pratishta, you might have to join where there is some Pratishta going on, and then you'll be an assistant, and with the assistants you will learn more and more in details. Like, yeah.
Do you do any teach? Do you have any students that you teach?
No, I mean, not really students. I have friends who come and I show them something, something like that.
Right. And when you talk about Pratishta, I've noticed that you talked about Pratishta a lot. Is that like the main thing, or is that the most complicated thing?
That's the most complicated thing. Yeah, that's I mean, from the perspective of Pancharatra, it's the most difficult thing. Therefore, like the Shaligram worship is so much easier. People would say, "Oh, Shaligram." I have been 5 times to Muktinath, walking there, collecting Shaligrams. Picking up Shaligram from the Gandaki is one point. Yeah? It is maybe not so easy to start a worship, but if you get a Shaligram through a blessed soul, that puja will much, much more enhance anything else what you can expect by doing like a Moti worship. Because Moti worship is more difficult.
One thing I remember is on shaligram.net, even before I even knew who you were, I saw that you had a journal webpage there about how you went to Damodarkund. Can you tell us a little bit about the first time you went? Because that's so fascinating. Devotees who walk there, and like nowadays it's like not even possible to go there because of like certain checkpoints you're not allowed to go past and things like that. But tell us a little bit about that. That's fascinating. I'd love to go there one day.
Yeah, but it's like now, first of all, I wanted to make that path like Gopal Bhatta was going from Vrindavan to Gandaki, no?
Yeah.
Then I found out most likely have not been to Damodarkund. Don't throw rocks at me, no. But because
you're saying you didn't go to Damodarkund?
No, I not Gopal Bhatta.
Right.
Yeah, because it's such it's such a long way just to find Shaligrams when you can get Shaligrams already much before.
Right, I see what you're saying.
And Damodarkund, it's a dry land, you could say. We walk from Muktinath itself. You have to walk 6 days by foot, and there is, I mean, particularly no inheritance of living beings anywhere. There's one place called Yara. It's a kind of Buddhist monastery with few houses around who they're living. Some people who have some sheeps and they bring them up to the mountains. But when it's very cold, and even those people climb more towards the lower regions of that Mustang area. And so I went with a friend from Switzerland, my friend Shirasuka, good boy. And so we prepared ourselves to get first all the licenses, because you had to bring in some guides, from the government. They had to give up a guide because there were some, between each country, like China and Nepal, because in that time when their war in Tibet was, all the camps are like a kind of tribe who fight against the Chinese people, and they were hiding in that area, in that Mustang area. Yeah, and so to prevent any rebels to live there, the Chinese paid those Nepal government to clear that area, and therefore the Mustang was declared as a no-go area for tourists for around 30 years or 40 years, something. It only opened up in the 90s, early time. And so we were going there, and once we passed Kagbeni, there was a check post, and they told us, and this was middle of May, like around in the middle of May, and they say, oh, just one group had to come back because there are like two big passes, like high pass. They had to come back because there was too much snowfall, and they could not go further to Damodarkund. And so they wished us good luck. And so we had like, I think 6 or 8 people to take along to go to Damodarkund, because it was not just like a easy trip by your own self. Actually, my friend always said, "Oh, let's go alone, just take some cookies." But then realizing actually in that area, you will die there, because like it's a very high altitude. And especially him, he was like, "Oh, I will walk barefoot," So he put on his slippers. I mean, like these shoes for the sadhus. He was walking with the sadhu shoes of a high altitude of 5,000 meters. And of course, it was very cold, and there was some snow, and the altitude made us all sick, So we were like, you couldn't walk. I mean, we were walking 11 hours from one place to another, but still we didn't make it very far, because you had to like, no air, and that's and our, we had to carry our luggage, and so that was really like a difficult time to go. And Damodarkund, when we came there, after we were walking from Beni, Beni to Muktinath, which takes another 5 days, and then from Muktinath to Damodarkund another 6 days. So that was like a whole trip of 11 days walking. And when you reached there, finally, you couldn't believe, that's it? No, that's Damodarkund? Because we didn't walk all the time on the Gandaki, because Gandaki, it's an area, actually. Damodarkund and Gandaki, it's a river which is widespread. It has, actually, Gandaki is only called Gandaki after Kagbini. Before, it's called different. There's like,
really?
there's even Nrsimha Kola. Kola means stream. Like that said, that's like 7 streams which flow in and becomes one big river. And so we had to follow in certain ways. And we had this funny guide from the government who was, as I said, he didn't know where to go to Damodarkund, but he was ordered by the Nepali government that we are not crossing, that we're not crossing the Chinese border. And we had to take another local guide who was finally, because we got lost. We were somewhere, and this guy didn't know where to go. We just searched, and there was a little hut, and this guy, he agreed to come with us. So that was coming finally to Damodarkund was really, really super. I just can say that
it's just like a tiny kund, right?
Yeah, it's actually a few kunds. They're like 2 big ones and then few smaller ones, and you're on a high elevated platform, and below there is a dry riverbed also, which leads up to another spot which calls Brigukutachala, which is or Damodar Himal. These are like 2 big mountains from where you could say source. The source actually is Damodarkund, but that stream also goes further. You see, you have to understand the concept of source for like a Vaisnava or a believer in the whole Vedic concept is that the source is there where it is declared that Narayana was standing there and declared, okay, that's the spot. We are not interested by the material concept where maybe from some ice rock the water splashes out and that is the real source. Because there was this one German tracker called Bruno Baumann. He had researched the source of Kali Gandaki, and he found it somewhere upper Mustang in some other totally different spot. And anyway, on the way, you have to walk maybe 2 or 3 days. You don't see any water at all. You don't know there is Kali Gandaki. It's just all dry riverbed and nothing really is there. But in there, you will find also some shaligrams. And they are saying that there's 2 different types of shaligrams. It's that's what they call it, Stana Shila and Jala Shila. Which one are found in the water and which are found in the ground. And those found in the ground are more difficult to worship than those from the water. And it is much more easier to get when you get the shaligram from a friend or a well-wisher the worship is much, much more enhancing if in compared to when you go there and collect yourself. Because normally in the traditional way, you have to do prayashita, means you do forgiveness, that you may have taken some mistake, and you have to throw some tulsis and send some mantra and thinking about, I'm offering gold to Gandaki and doing some reward because you're taking something, It's like the story was taking Govardhan from Govardhan mountain. So the similar thing is with Shaligram, but it is not very well known.
Right.
So, and
So
when
how-
you're there...
So you went there, and you looked for Sheilas in the Damodarkund?
Yeah, and that was a surprise. We didn't find any. We were like, what is that? No Sheilas. We were walking around, taking bath and, looking, and we are totally, and then on the we were there one night or 2 nights. I can't remember. Maybe one night only, because we had like 2 horses with us from that guide, and the guide was saying, "Look, my horses cannot survive here. We have to go back immediately. I mean, one night, and then we have to go back because there's nothing else." And what he did was really interesting. There were some little bushes, not really bushes, but he kind of, creepers, and then he pulled out those creepers, and then he took off the skin from the roots and burned it or something, and that he gave to the horses. They didn't have much with him, because it was like a long, long, long way. The horses would not survive in that area, and we also wouldn't survive. So we were there only one night, and in that night I couldn't really sleep. But I tell you, that was the most far-out night I ever had, because I woke up in around really middle of the night, and I had to go small toilet, pee, and then ran out. And because of this high altitude, the sleep is very thin. It's like you don't feel like you're sleeping, and also the blood pressure is high, and of course you have to may go often on toilet. So I was like running in the night out on the toilet. It was icy cold. This was in the beginning of June, and it was maybe -8, -10 or something. It was really freezing cold. And I came out, and it was dark night, of course, and then I looked in the sky, and there were like millions of stars. I have never seen such a sky, I tell you. I was really baffled. That was really amazing. And seeing that sky, I was like, wow, this is a darshan. That's like a full darshan of Lord Vishnu. I mean, having the full Rasi on the sky, with all the nakshatras, with all the planets. I was amazing. That was the most exciting thing. And in the morning when we woke up, we still went for searching Shaligram, and there's a little shrine over there which they have recently installed, I don't know, but put an old statue of Narayan there, and a huge Shaligram was there, and one manuscript, I think it was the Mahabharata or something, old handwritten manuscript in that shrine, which is open shrine.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting a little bit desperate, and no Shaligrams, and like looking at the Kund, and then I spotted there were some little small round ones I saw, and then I digged with the feet, like, look, is this some rubble or is it really Shaligram? And then I digged in the ground, and I found more Shaligrams, digging, and then like hundreds of Shaligrams came out, because they're inside the ground. Really
Oh, they're not just on the top. You got to dig.
Yeah, they're all over the place, but digged inside.
Wow.
That was really like oh wow. So
how did you choose which ones that you wanted to take with you?
Yeah, the special way how they look, like Varaha, Hayagriva, some special forms which you have not seen. Those, I distributed to different mats, like some Gaudiya mats, some temples in wherever I went to Bangalore, giving some nice Sudarshana. So different temples I were distributing to friends of mine, so all got some small Shaligrams, like I gave one to Nrsimha Maharaj. He made to his Lakshmi Narasimha or Yoga Narasimha, he made a nice one, like a garland. So like that,
Do you still have Shaligrams from that time?
Yeah. I kept, 1 or 2.
Right. Beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So then when did your attraction for Lord Nrsimhadev kind of come about?
I think that was as I said, on my first trip going to Kanchipuram and staying there with Lord Vararaj, that was some revealing thing that because there's a yoga Narasimha inside the temple, which actually said that Narasimha came from Ahobilam, and he chased that demon, and that demon went into that cave, and then Yoga Narasimha manifested there. I think that was because that Yoga Narasimha was very beautiful, and I went there every day for darshan, and I could just stand there for long, and that I think was the start. And then initially, on the German farm, because in that time, when Harikesh was opening up his drama, and we all got our illusion away, and the movement has to change his system also of dealing with devotees, and especially with ladies also, and that gave a whole new picture. And I was on the farm in that time. We had around 50 people on the farm, and it just happened Harikesh left, and all of them left, and I was there with some other devotee as pujari. That's it. We were like just 2 people. And remember, every morning, early morning, Mangalati and Darshanati, I was singing Samsara Dava alone. I looked, nobody in the temple room. I was singing,
Wow.
huge temple room, nobody there. And then suddenly I thought, okay, I'm not doing it for the crowd there now because nobody's there. I can do it for myself. And Narasimha is there, and he smiled at me. And that was open up, I think, my connection. Then I was staying there for a very long time and doing the seva, and I became even for a short time temple president for 5 people, and I was the pujari also at the same time. Like it was a very interesting time, and I could start my relationship with Narasimha more deep, and and that was also the time when I did first that CD with Narasimha Stotravali, because I was thinking I should do some recording with which gives for the next generation also music which is done traditionally in prayer of Lord Nrsimha. So that's something I was really going
What
for.
interests me is that when devotees in ISKCON or Hare Krishna movement, they talk about Lord Nrsimhadev, it's mostly in the context of, please protect me, please do this for me, please do that for me. What's your outlook on being a devotee of Lord Nrsimhadev? That I assume that it's not all about just protect me. There's also other prayers that can be given, that can be had to Lord Nrsimhadev. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I mean,
because it's like, sorry to interrupt you, but it's about the Lord being our order supplier. It's like, do this for me, do this for me, do this for me. That's the only thing that I hear,
right,
prayer wise.
I mean, that was exactly why I went to South India, because I could not believe that Narasimha is just the vicious supplier, and and also that he is only there for cleaning 2 words, like Bhakti Thakur has done in his prayer. He is a cleaner for the worship of Radha and Krishna. Yes, for a Gaudiya, that is definitely the concept. And but I thought more like I'm much more in how to say, I want to be more in connection with his personality than just to be a cleaner for my worship of Radha and Krishna, which I also didn't feel this is my bhava. And so I really feel like this Murali Gupta, being in the movement where people are strangling and pushing me, like, you have to worship Radha Krishna. It's like, yes, I like, but I have, my heart is something pulling me something else. And finally, I realized I cannot go against my nature, so I have to find out what Narasimha wants from me. And he's not my wish supplier, never he was be. I actually never went for Narasimha in a way that, now this prayer should be bringing me this and this result. It is more like
Like getting in the car, and the first thing we do, we chant in the car, Namaste.
yeah. Okay, that is. I can drive 150 and Namaste and Narasimha. Yes, that is good. That's a good thing. But yeah, no, it's like I really wanted to see if there's more, and definitely there's more. I mean, this is he is the Lord of the Lords. He is the most powerful one, and he can, reveal, because there are rahasyas, we say in Sanskrit, and there are secrets about these things, and which I'm working on I'm still working, I can say. Somebody will say, oh, you're still working. Yes, I'm still working on that Nrsimha Tapani Upanishad, which actually was the time we wanted to bring out already before COVID, but due to those problems with communication, and so I could not go further. But we almost finished the translation. We did the Sanskrit editing, and it is just on the way to bring out as a book, like we did. We are planning also for the Manusuktam. But yeah, so from that Nrsimha Tapani, there is so much more than just a wish fulfiller, because it is really the life and soul of everything. And I've see many people say, there's no much rasa except the dasya rasa, and you cannot go further. But Prabhupada also writes in some of the commentaries, and I don't know what is it, there's 8th canto, I think, where he says that there's a Vatsalya relationship. I'm not behind the relationship anyway. I just want to be a servant, which is, I think, the correct way. And also, I'm a little bit hesitant. People say, oh, you're not a Nrsimha Bhakta. I would say to declare oneself to be a Nrsimha Bhakta and then being a tough guy also, and that is maybe not the proper attitude, because just because Narasimha is tough and he's Ugra doesn't mean that his Bhaktas has to be like that. Actually, you have to be more humble, and you have to be really, how we say, like soft like a cushion. Because Narasimha, he can be also quite heavy in relation to that. I mean, saying that there's much more than just all the rasas, when you talk about rasa anyway, are based on dasyam. So you definitely have to develop that relationship of dasyam before you can even speak about others. So if you don't have that relationship of dasyam, there will be no vatsalya and madhurya, not to speak about madhurya. So dasyam is the basis. The concept is here, like these different forms in Vaikuntha you may attain. But there are prayers where even some of these devotees of Narasimha will there say, I don't want to be having a Swarupya or a Swavipya or a different, like looking like him or being like him, or small as the smallest, biggest as the biggest. So I want to be serving him. So that is like a very, okay. Yeah, that is the point.
So that's really interesting. I really appreciate that. I feel like devotees can come in all different kinds of moods, because the Lord is so he's not limited to certain moods. It's like whatever the devotee approaches him with, he's able to reciprocate in that way, whether it's you feel connected with the Krishna worship or Lord Nrsimhadev worship. Lord can accommodate that. And it's not that one is right and one is wrong. It's like sometimes devotees have this real narrow view of what Krishna consciousness is, but actually it's like so much bigger than we think. It's like not just, okay, this is the right way, but it's like accommodating all different kinds of rasas, all different kinds of moods and attitudes and everything. And I mean, it takes a little while to get to that point. Again, we can think very narrowly, but as time goes on, I don't know, just becoming a father for me, it's been really interesting, because I've just like broadened my view about everything. Like, because kids require you to do that, right? Because kids they're very, sometimes they can be difficult, sometimes they can be easy, and they're very innocent, So I don't know, that's my own experience of Krishna consciousness and broadening my vision of what moods the Lord can
Definitely.
take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Let's take some let's see some questions, maybe some questions in the comment section. A lot of devotees here watching, about 50 over to the different platforms. Here's a question. Prabhu, can you kindly comment on Devalaya astrology?
I mean, that's like connected to the worship. It is like as one can predict or one can say why there is some problems in the temple. For instance, if there is some mishaps, let's say, like we had I can give an example. There is a Shiva temple, or a kind of there's a Shiva temple in Poland, which happened to be that just when they started to build the temple, there was an accident of a man who almost killed himself. And when they were opening up the Garbhagriha and did the prana pratishtha for the lingam, a small girl got killed in the kitchen. And people would ask, why happened that? We just want to go do, or some really blessing for this, but maybe we have crisscrossed something which we don't know. So Devalaya Vastu can give a definitely an answer to that. Or let's say there is like as a priest, when you go to a temple, you always have to take some shakuna, which means that you have to look. I mean, I'm not very much superstitious, but there are some points in our incident where it gives us a hint there is some problem here. For instance, I was coming to one temple in Europe, and they gave me a separate room for living, and above of that room there was the Maharaji ashram, and I woke up early in the morning and I was hearing a woman crying all the time. And then but we were planning to do a pratishtha for Mahalakshmi, for Radharani there. So that is like, a hint. Some problem is there, that maybe the energy for that pratishtha might be not there very prevalent, or they will be not very supportive. So Devalaya Vastu can also give you an answer to this. And on top of it, we do have some other how you say, tools to find out how we can do it better. So Devalaya Vastu means it's Devalaya Astrology, Jyoti, sorry. Devalaya Jyotish is there for correcting ourselves in the connection with the deity worship.
When you were talking about that lady crying, is that like an omen, like a nimitta?
Yeah, that is Naimitika, yes. Not Naimitika, sorry. Yes, it's a Shakuna. Yeah, it's an omen which gives us some understanding that, first of all, maybe the ladies were not properly maintained in that place, or they had definitely some difficulties. And but the female energy also is in a not very good position. So that has to be rectified, and we have to talk this out, and there's a solution for that also. Yes.
So did you bring that to the attention of the authorities, and you tried to work that out before you did all that stuff?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I'm really interested in nimittas, like omens. I know, in Achyutananda Prabhu's book,
Blazing Fires, yeah.
Blazing Sadhus.
Sadhus, yeah.
Yeah, Prabhupada, he talks about all the omens that Prabhupada would like look for, and there's so many. It was so interesting because Prabhupada said, people say, oh, Prabhupada didn't care about astrology, he didn't care about all these things and things, but it says in the book, Achyutananda Prabhu describes all the different superstitious things that Prabhupada was kind of talking about, and it was like so many. Like one of them I remember was, you're not supposed to talk about laundry when you're leaving the house. So or else your journey won't go well or something. So him and Prabhupada and Achyutananda were going somewhere, and Achyutananda was like, Prabhupada, but what about the hanging dhoti? Should we like take them off before we go and stuff? And Prabhupada said, stop talking. And then but Achyutananda said, "What? But Prabhupada, if we don't get it out, it's going to rain." And Prabhupada said, "Stop talking right now." And then Achyutananda stopped talking, and they went. And then later on, Prabhupada talked to him. He said, "Listen, don't ever talk about laundry when you're leaving the house because it could be something bad." I don't remember what it was exactly, but that was the point. So very interesting. I'm very interested in omens. I think that's super fascinating. Let's look at another question here. What do you think about the predictions regarding impending problems in cities? I think this is referring to a different podcast that I did with Her Grace Govinda Dasi, one of Prabhupada's very earliest disciples. She was talking about in 1973, Prabhupada said, in 50 years, this Western civilization will be finished. And so now 50 years is coming up to 2023. So I guess she's referring to that. Maybe you can, I don't know if you want to comment on that or not.
I mean, it's like, that's not the first time we hear that in the time of Prabhupada, people, he wanted that his devotees create farms and live on farms.
Yeah.
I mean, that is quite obvious. And he said, use the cities as for preaching, and but you have to live in a good environment. So especially for most of us who are householders, that definitely should live in a good environment to have that, sattvic lifestyle, because, living in the city is totally, ruled by tamas and rajas, which will bring you just suffering. And I'm myself living in a city in Berlin, and it's like I'm trapped with that Ketu Naga. I cannot leave the city because of my karma here. But once I know, I should focus on this and go out and live in a place where one can find better harmony, and live in a place which will bring much more happiness than with living in a 13th store floor and having just 2 rooms. Nice, I have a nice view on this crazy city, but think about electricity goes off and you cannot come down, and it's a hell living in a city. Actually, living in a city is hell. But we are our karma sometimes bind us to these problems, and definitely cities will impending problems. There is no question on this. We know that. I mean, you can look at it, but if you are there for a purpose, like doing your preaching, you have a program which protects you, then you will be finding out, you will be unharmed, no problem.
Yeah. Here's a cool question. Is there any use worshiping deities without prana pratishtha at home? I want to add something to this. Is sometimes devotees refer to like deity welcoming. I talked to Brahma Muhurta Prabhu about this like way back in the early podcast I did. Yeah, but I want to see your take on this. Like, what is this thing that started called welcoming deities? I think there's some confusion there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see, there's a most simple prana pratishtha which is done on a murti, but it should be done before you do your worship. And it is like how to explain it in a way that people can understand. It's like normally when you want to make a form ready for worship, like an actual form which is made by a stapati, then all the lakshanas, all the different gestures and mimics from the face and the body size and the finger size, and has to be perfect as most possible as possible when you do a worship for a temple. When you do it for your home, the standard goes down a little bit, but still these also, you're not just a lump of metal and you say, okay, that's like a Goni Tai. No, it should be resembling somehow Goni Tai. And then once it is there, the murti is there, you have to do some very minor. It's a very simple puja. You don't need to, but that has to be, done in a way that that the worship can start. It's like a good start. It's and it doesn't need to be Homa and Netro Nilayam, opening the eyes and all that. It's called Nadi Snan. You take it to a river, You bathe the devotee in the river, and then you put him up, and then you start the worship. Very simple.
Really? Even could it be a river here in New Jersey as well?
It should be a nadi, means a river which is ancient. I mean, ancient means has to
To the
be
ocean.
deep. It
Oh.
leads to the ocean, or it's deep,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which is ancient. It's maybe glorified in a way by the Red Indians, or like
Right.
by some tribals or some shamans or whatever. But there should be antiquity that this river has nurtured humans for a very long time.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhu, great conversation. I live in Dallas and I would like to learn the proper procedure to perform a fire yajna. How is the best way to learn the process?
How's the best way? First, you have to choose from what tradition you want to learn. Once you decide, you get set up yourself in a way that you learn it in one tradition, and you learn the mantras in one tradition, and that will bring the best benefit. So that means if you do cherry picking, that will be very difficult. Like I can say for myself, I was doing cherry picking in the beginning. I was going to different, groups, reading Rig Veda and then little Sama, and then putting it all together. But, my pronunciation was not good, and I was not learning it from a teacher, or no, I was not having the proper learning. So best is you stick to a school from where they will teach you every step in that ritual, and then you learn it according to this, and that ritual will bring the most powerful result. Not just a result, which will be a blessing. Like in some of my rituals, people just sit there and they're saying, like I'm doing sometimes for yoga people who have no understanding or very less understanding with what is bhakti about, or devotion and rituals, but they can feel that there's something here it's doing with myself. And so that ritual can be a very powerful one, very powerful tool if it comes in the tradition.
This is a related question. What would you say to someone who desires to learn worship and has learned things online, but desires to learn more in length?
Yeah, online is good to a certain extent. How to learn Achman and how to learn pranayam. But for instance, if you want to learn mudras, of course, I know not many Gaudiyas prefer to mudras, but there are a lot of mudras which are in the Vaishnava tradition, and there are prayoga mudras which are used in a way that is more like a showing thing. Like when you want to show Narasimha mudra, it's like it's going inside, taking out and putting around, and that like going along with the mantra. That you cannot learn on video, I would say, because the teacher has to explain it in a way, or in a book. You cannot learn that in the book because prayoga mudras. So this is just a croaky example, but in general, it is always good to learn when you sit in front of people from who you can learn. And I think there are many now in America who teach proper worship, of course, in India, and you can learn also in Europe. There are few people who teach. So the eagerness will bring you to the good people. Yeah.
Okay, great. Hare Krishna, I have heard that by chanting Nrsimhadev prayers, you can lessen the impact of Shani. Do you know anything about this, Prabhu?
Yeah, there's this prayer, 16 prayers from the Vishnu Damodar Purana, I think, as the prayer of Shani to Lord Nrsimha, which has different swaras also, with different melodies inside, different, anustup, tristup, some other way of chanting it. And that is mostly known that Shani has worshipped Narasimha from the Vishnu Damodar Purana. And yes, it will lessen Shani, who is ruling destiny, because Narasimha is the Lord of destiny, and he can definitely remove Shani in a bad way. Like you could say Prahlad had a bad karma because having a bad father, which but because he worshipped Narayana, he was protected, and he even became king. So yeah, like that.
Great. All right, that's all the questions that we have. If you want to get in touch with Amara Prabhu, you can get in touch with him via email. Here's his email up on the screen: malola at gmx.de. You can email him. He also has a wonderful website, samskaras.org. It's tickering there down at the bottom, samskaras.org. You can check out his .com. Yeah, my bad. .com. You can check out his website here. Oh, I'm trying to share it and it's not working.
The music was the Technik. Hello.
Can you still hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, something happened. It's not. It's like not responding. Chrome. I'm using Chrome. Give it a
Chrome X. Use Chrome X.
Anyway, Amara Prabhu, do you want to give some parting words or some closing statements to your podcast here? I'd love to hear what our listeners, everything that you said. Maybe you can just tie it up somehow.
One has to search for his own. I like this. I started with Astarata. He was when I was very young and learning from him the puja. He was telling me that you look at the sky when all the birds are flying. They're flying in a group, right?
Yeah.
But each bird has to bring his own power to fly in that group, and each bird is individual. And so that is I think that was a very nice meditation for myself, because I was thinking, yeah, I have to fly my own way how it is, but I want to develop. I want to stay in the Vaisnava community, and like that. That was, I think, a very big impression, and I'm very thankful to Prabhupada and to the devotees, and that I could get out of my material concepts of there's this other devotee was telling me in the beginning, like, you are like a terrorist living in this world because you hate the governments, you don't want to cooperate. We are very close, because one of these RF terrorists was saying that in this life in this world you can only become a terrorist or a monk, because a monk is also like a terrorist, because he's like
right.
So, that is an extreme standpoint, but in my perspective it made sense, because the world made no sense to me, but then with God it made suddenly sense, and everything fall into a proper perspective.
Great. Well, thank you, Amara Prabhu, for joining me. It's really a pleasure to talk to you, and I love hearing more deeper about your story and about your love for rituals and Samskaras and Lord Nrsimhadev. Really wonderful and very inspiring. I'm hoping we can be in association soon. It's been so many years, but it was great talking to you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We're having, I think we have another podcast next week. And I'm trying to get to 100 episodes by the end of the year. I think we're going to make it. We're on 86 right now. But have a great rest of your evening. Amar Prabhu, I'm going to shut this off because I'm actually still it's like not responding. So hopefully I'll contact you after this. I'll probably call you on your phone instead of.
Super.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ram.
Haribol.
Hari Jai Nrsimha. No, so I'm online still. Hello.
Krishna Hare